Hi, this is Joe Fulvia with Camaplan. I'm subbing for Will Mucker, who usually does these things, so we might get a few laughs in addition to some education about self-directed IRAs. Um, kind of let everybody get in. There are several signups, and we see people coming in. So I'm just going to go through the preliminaries here before we get into the meat of the subject. We're going to talk about self-directed IRAs and a little bit about 401ks, although that's really a big topic in and of itself. So again, welcome and thanks for taking time out of your day to visit with us and to learn a bit about this. First thing we have to do is get the heretofores and the notwithstandings out of the way. We present information for educational reasons only. We're a neutral third-party custodian that's required by the IRS in order to have a domicile for your self-directed IRA or 401k. We don't endorse or recommend anything, individual speakers, organizations, types of investments. We don't accept liabilities for losses or damages. So, the key thing here is you do your own homework. That's what self-direction is all about. And you rely on your experts. You've got someone who prepares your taxes. You have a CPA. You have a legal counsel. These are the people that you should rely upon before you do anything like this. So with that in mind, here's what we're going to talk about today. We want to take a look at the different, understanding what a self-directed IRA is, what types of self-directed investments you're allowed to do, how does it all work, how do I get started, what are the steps, and we'll touch a little bit on tax considerations and resources. But again, those, like the 401k, are really entire webinars all in and of themselves. But please feel free to ask questions. We'll make sure that if I can't give you an answer right here, that we'll get you one after I get off, not off of work, off of this webinar. So let's talk about understanding self-direction. A lot of brokerage houses and traditional brokerages talk about self-direction in the sense that you can pick stocks and bonds and mutual funds and commercial paper and CDs and that sort of thing. And to that extent it is. But the big difference between traditional brokerage houses and true self-direction is that we're set up to do exactly the same things that traditional brokerage houses are set up to do, except we do them with alternative assets. They do stocks and bonds and mutual funds, and we do apartment buildings and business ventures and precious metals and things like that. So the true self-direction means that you can invest in anything you want to, with some restrictions with regard to who you invest with. And there are a limited number of asset classes that you can't invest in, but we'll go over that. This is a big part of this, is that a lot of people come into this having been real estate agents or having been in construction or having been in finance and banking. And if you have an understanding of a particular business or an industry, this is a great place to take your knowledge and put it to work, and that you can direct your investments into, say, companies within an industry that you understand very well. We have a lot of investors that do oil and gas. We have some that do, mid-level or mid-sized manufacturing operations in the Midwest, mid. We have people that invest in things that they understand. And that's one of the great attractions here, is that rather than doing all the work on the fundamentals of your investments on Wall Street, here you're a lot closer to the action. You'll, if you're investing in a business, understand or know the principles and have met them personally if you're doing proper due diligence. So it's a way to take what you know and put it to work. Self-directed IRAs and 401ks fall into two general categories. There are those that are tax deferred, in which you generally get a tax break for putting money in. I think many people are familiar with putting money into a traditional IRA and getting a little bit of a tax break. The tax break is offset, however, by sharing with the IRS the earnings that you make when you finally withdraw money from those IRAs. So there are traditional IRAs. Many people are familiar with those. There's a spousal IRA. There's a self-employed plan IRA and simple IRAs. And then the defined benefit plans are what were traditional pensions, and the defined contribution plans are 401ks. There's another version that we like a lot, and that's the tax-free Roth version of the IRA, in that you don't get that tax break going in, but you don't share the growth that occurs inside that account with the government on the way out. There are some other advantages, including not being forced to take distributions when you reach a certain age. At this point, it's 73. It's going to go up to 75. With the tax deferred plans, you're forced to start taking that money out because Uncle Sam wants his part. And with the Roth IRA, you don't get the tax break. If you move money into it from a traditional IRA, you'll be taxed on it. But we say it's like being taxed, purchasing the seeds, or being taxed on the seeds, as opposed to being taxed or sharing the final crop. So these are all options. And as you can see, there's health savings for saving and covering health services that aren't covered by your health insurance plan. And again, you can invest in the same kind of assets that you would invest in with a Roth IRA or traditional IRA or 401k. You can also save money for the kids if your goal is to put them through school. And the educational savings account, which is called the Coverdell, that's a great place to do that. And again, you can invest in the same kind of assets, get the same kind of returns, and prepare for the education expenses for your kids. There's also a Roth-like 401k, so you can have the advantages of the Roth in a plan built for your business. This is a comparison slide for the 401k and the self-directed IRA, and I'm not going to get too deep into this, but if you have a small business, you're self-employed, you're a contractor, the solo 401k is an excellent alternative to the traditional IRA. It gives you a much larger contribution limit, and you can do the same kind of investing that you would do in a self-directed IRA. The big difference, and again, this goes back to the idea of tax deferral and tax elimination or tax-free. When you make money as a contractor, as a 1099 contractor, or you're on salary as a W-2 employee, by the time the taxes are taken out of the $100,000 that you made that year, you end up with about $60,000. And again, your mileage may vary depending upon whether you live in Florida or California, or your local taxes as well. The next step in keeping more of what you made would be if you own, you're collecting rent, or you're getting royalties on mineral rights and things like that, or interest in money that you've lent to someone else. Here, the tax burden is a little bit less, but you're still giving up quite a bit of it. In the IRAs, you keep a lot more of it. Now, the tax-deferred IRA, again, you will be taxed at distribution. The original thinking was that we're going to give you an incentive, a deduction, to save for your own retirement. And when you retire, your income would be lower than it was when you were working, and you would be withdrawing that money at a lower tax rate. So you're still giving up a portion of it. But with the Roths, you're not giving up any of it. Everything that is generated within that Roth, you get to keep. Here's another way of looking at it. You start with 50 grand and you go over a 40-year period, and the tax deferral and tax-free benefits of the traditional tax-deferred IRA and the Roth tax-free IRA in the light green and dark green respectively are shown here. You're not taxed along the way, and instead your taxes are deferred or they're eliminated altogether. And so you can see that $50,000 results in a lot more saved upon retirement. There's a lot of things you can invest in, a very short list of things you can't invest in. So let's take a look at that. Real estate, that's really big here in our house. Probably 75% of the business that the assets that are held by our investors involve real estate in some way, shape, or form, either directly as a purchase of property, as a lending to for mortgages and notes on properties, participation in private placements and syndications for things like multi-family apartment complexes and commercial real estate. You can also do the private placement category would include business ventures. We have still have a client that had a dump truck in his IRA because it was a piece of property that was leased out and it earned income, just as an apartment unit would generate revenue. People doing Christmas tree futures, llama farms, coffee growers in Colombia. It's quite broad, and it goes up to you again, your skill level, your knowledge, the things that you know very well. This is a great place to invest in those things. You can also hold precious metals, and what I mean by holding it, they are held in a depository. You can't stick them under your bed, but you can have, excuse me, actual physical metals that you own, identified for you, in a depository, and you can drive down to the depository, go look and see them. And some people like to do that, and we'll get into the other category later. Now, within real estate, just anything that touches real estate is, and this would include things like tax liens or loaning to fix and flippers or anything like that, is all available and all doable within an IRA or 401k, self-directed. Single family and multi-unit homes, apartments and condominiums, commercial property. We have some investors here that are in a fund that prepares land for developers. There is something like a 2 to 5 year backlog of single family homes that need to be built in this country, and this company is on the front end of that process. So then there's land banking, very popular. Have some people out in California that are doing that. So this is where the improved or unimproved land investments might come in. And of course, foreign property. You're able to invest in foreign property through your US-based self-directed IRA or 401k. Again, continuing to the real estate related investments that you can do, you can become the bank. You can loan people money, or you can buy mortgages, take them over, and you're the bank. You hold a lien on the property and you collect the mortgage payments. You can loan people money, more promissory notes that are tied to the property that's that you're lending to, or the individual that owns the property you're lending to. Convertible notes, discounted notes, any financial instrument that you can imagine can be done here. Also, one other thing about secured and unsecured notes, you can lend to private businesses and lend to where there isn't an asset underlying or collateralizing that note. It's a little bit more risky, but it is a big area. When you get into businesses, any corporate structure except the S corps are available. We see a lot of LLCs, limited partnerships, and joint ventures. There are some rules there, which we'll get into in a little bit, but this allows you to invest in things like intellectual properties, biotech, commercialization of new technologies, that sort of thing. I mentioned precious metals before. Any precious metals except for collectibles, and again, these would be physically held in your name at a depository. The coins, there are some restrictions. The U.S. Eagles and the Canadian Maple Leafs and the Chinese Pandas are fine. The numismatics, the collectibles, are generally not. Here's what you can't do. Work of art, stuff that you collect, basically, and life insurance. And even there's are companies that allow fractional shares in works of art that are auctioned. So it's an LLC. You would participate as a shareholder, and they buy and sell and auction artwork. So as long as you're not holding it directly, you just can't hold that inside of your IRA. Same thing for crypto. We don't do crypto inside of the IRAs. There are people who set up LLCs or invest in companies that buy, sell, and trade crypto and then remit the earnings back to the IRA. There's some transactions that are prohibited. A lot of it is what's called self-dealing, and disqualified persons. A lot of people come to us and say, gee, I want to buy a vacation property, or can I sell myself my house and put it in an IRA? Can I invest in a business that I'm going to start? And all of those things are no's. These were intended as passive investments, not as a way to push money through tax advantage vehicles into your own pocket, so to speak. So there are a lot of rules around this, and we can help you parse out what's allowed and what's not allowed. So this involves people that you can't lend money to, or can't buy and sell from, or can't do business with within your IRA. So no self-dealing and no personal use. We get a lot of folks who they want to invest in a piece of in a vacation property. They want to lease it out or rent it out 50 weeks out of the year and then stay there 2 weeks. Unfortunately, you can't do it if you're doing it inside of an IRA. So there's no personal use. We do have folks that say, well, how are they going to find out? It's not worth the risk because the penalties are so onerous. The people you can't do business with are identified here, and it's the dark blue spots. It's basically linearly and with a spouse and the spouse's children. Some interesting twists on this. My brother is a contractor. He does he builds homes, but he does his main business is decks, pools, spas, sort of backyard fantasies that people down south that can stay outside their backyards 12 months out of the year love to build into their living environments. And I've loaned him money on occasion to buy additional equipment. And so as long as you're charging a market interest rate and it's not perceived as being something that you're giving him that he's going to somehow slip back to you under the table, you're fine. I've also done this with my nephews who both own their own businesses, equipment intensive businesses, and help them get financing because I'm participating. And then they paid me back the money, which is really kind of cool. There are some rules around the corporations too. And we have this all on our website, but if you're looking at investing in a business that you're participating in, you can't own 50% or more of it, and you can't be perceived as being in control of it, or the spider at the center of the web. So if you're involved in a business and you want to own it, you can't be perceived as controlling it just because you have 5% of the shares and you've appointed your buddies to various positions in the company and awarded them shares, but you're really in control of it. That's a no-no. All right, how do you get all this done? It looks a lot more complicated than it is, and once you get into it, once you go through it a couple times, it'll be like riding a bike. Really, this chart is beautiful. It could be condensed into 3 steps. Essentially, is that you're going to open an account, which takes about 20 minutes. You're going to fund your account. And during the opening of the account, you're going to fund the account. So you're going to knock off the first 2 steps right away. You're going to either move money over from another financial institution through a transfer or a rollover, or you're going to fund the account with a contribution. And then, you're going to choose your investment and make your purchase. Once you've done all 3 of those steps, you're in the game. Everything from then on is repetitive. So you make your investment. Everything is moved in and out of your IRA. So you're going to place your investment through your IRA by either buying a piece of property or investing in a business venture, and any funds that are paid to you come back to your IRA. Any expenses associated with your investment, if you own a piece of property and you're paying taxes, or you're hiring contractors to do work around the property, all of that is done through the IRA. A little bit of a twist for people who who are used to investing in real estate, say as a landlord, they've used private money and are used to having their hands on a property. It's a little restricted from that standpoint in that you can't really touch it. So whereas a traditional landlord might fix toilets, might paint the house, here you can pick the color out for the house, but you have to hire somebody to paint it. And you have to hire a plumber to fix the toilet. So it's a little bit different when I speak to people in real estate investment groups that are not familiar with this. a little bit different operating MO for them because they're so used to doing it. But the trade-offs in terms of tax deferral and tax-free revenue and earnings, far outweigh that. So just to get through this whole thing, basically you've set up your investment funds are sent out, and then, they start paying you back. And there might be a monthly interest check, or it might be at the end of 3 years, selling off the venture and realizing a substantial gain, hopefully. So what do we do? How do we fit into all of this for you? We're, as I said at the beginning, a neutral third party. We're really just the ledger. We're IRS approved to domicile self-directed IRAs and 401ks. You have to have this. You can't keep the checkbook or keep the ledger on this at home. So we're a neutral third party. And again, we don't sell anything. We facilitate the relationships that you have with the people that you invest with. So we try to smooth things out, make things easy for both parties. Again, we keep records of all transactions, and then we also file, the necessary tax documents with the IRS, and we provide those to you. And we also work with the people that you already have on your team, like your CPA or your tax prep specialist. We're used to being on calls with them because they have questions that if they're not familiar with this sort of thing, and we're happy to get on a call with you and your advisors. Well, there's a whole lot of questions, and I don't see any in the so I'm going to move on. There are some differences and some things that affect the businesses the things that you do inside. This is a unrelated business income tax and unrelated debt finance income. It's just two concepts you'll want to be, again, this is why you have your advisors with you, because you want to keep these in mind, that if your IRA receives unrelated business taxable income, it's not taxed as a C corporation. Those tax liabilities can be passed on to your IRA, and the IRA would have to pay those. The other comes into play if you use your IRA, say, to put a down payment on a piece of property, and you take a loan. Your IRA takes a loan to finance the rest of it. The amount that's financed is generating income for you. And so the IRS looks at that and says, well, the earnings from that, from the part of that thing should not be tax deferred or tax free. And so you will be paying tax on that too. That's self-directed IRA, level 102 or level 201. I remember back to my school days. At our website, we have piles and piles of publications. If you want to get into the details of this, or if you're an insomniac, you can, go to these publications, and it explains how the IRS, or how Congress really, when they put this all together, built all of these things. And then the IRS does issue rule changes and rule amendments occasionally, and we try to keep up with them. But you'll find all of that at the website and at the IRS website, irs.gov. It's a good place to find all of that. Like I said, I'm subbing for Will. He's this guy right here. And if you have any questions, or you want to follow up, or you want us to help you get started, he's the guy you would see on that. So I think that's going to be it. I don't see anything in chat. And Michael Duncan, our producer, is in the background somewhere. So I think we're done. If you have any questions, please do give us a call. There are several people here that spend their entire days answering questions for people who are interested in this and need to know more about it. So again, we appreciate your time, especially in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, when you could be eating lunch. And since it's sunny, at least here in the Northeast, you could be outside. So have a good one. Take care.